What are common reasons that employees resist change? By knowing why employees are resisting change, you can become better enabled to inspire them through that resistance. And our latest research at Change Enthusiasm Global has the answers. Let's get it. At Change Enthusiasm Global, we partnered with a rock star leading research institute called CGK to study the status of change and emotion in the workplace all over the world. And a part of that study, we focused on resistance and what drives that resistance in the workforce. And in this video, you're going to learn the top 3 reasons that we learned through this research in Asia, Western Europe, as well as here in the US. And this data just might surprise you. So let's start with the US. The top 3 reasons that we found that employees resist change are: number 1, they're comfortable with the way things are. I don't know how many times I've heard in my work with organizations all over the world that employees don't want to move through a change because everything's working fine right now. Why are you trying to change me? And that having to stretch outside of their comfort zone is what invites that resistance. And really the fear of having to do something that makes them uncomfortable, that puts them in that zone of discomfort. The second reason that we found in the research is a concern that the change won't make things better or even work at all. And the third reason in the US is that change is poorly communicated. And by the way, if you're looking for insights, tips, strategies to help mitigate some of these reasons, there are many other videos on this channel. Be sure to browse and check those out. Okay, let's move on to Western Europe and the top 3 reasons that they resist change. The number 1 reason, worried that the change won't make things better or work at all. Notice that this was also in the top 3 of the US. Now, you're going to see this type of trend continue as I move through these regions. Many of the reasons are very similar from culture to culture. The second reason in Western Europe, they don't feel like they've been properly trained or prepared to make the change happen. The third reason, similar to the number 1 reason in the US, is that they're comfortable with the way things are now. Finally, let's go on to Asia and the top 3 reasons we found that employees resist change in that region. The number 1 reason in Asia was having to learn new skills or behaviors in order to make the change happen. The second reason, and this probably is going to look familiar, is they're worried that the change won't work or make things better. And finally, this one was a little bit different from the other 2 regions. They feel like the change is being pushed simply for change's sake and that it's not really necessary. Now that we've gone through all the data across all 3 regions, I want to share a few key insights to be gleaned from this. But before I dive into those, if you're liking this, you're digging this, getting value, please subscribe, like, notification. I do content like this all the time, targeted on bringing you value. So make sure you click subscribe so that you'll get notified when a new video drops. All right, let's get into those insights. One major insight that I want to share as we look at the top 3 reasons across all of these regions is the worry that the change won't make things better or even work at all. For me, that really indicates a huge opportunity that leadership has in conveying the why, the rationale behind big change that they're pushing throughout their organization and through the business. Making sure that every employee is grounded in why you are making the change happen, if you're one of the leaders doing that, or why leadership is making that change happen. Not just how it's going to mean that the business will be better, but also how it's going to impact the employees' lives. How are their lives going to be simpler? How are they going to be more efficient? How is it going to help them and their day-to-day? I think there's a huge opportunity as we think about introducing change, going through big disruption, and getting crystal clear with the organization on why you're doing it. Take a page out of Simon Sinek's book. It's a very powerful concept and notion, and it shows through my data that it's hugely important. When you have that why clearly stated, it's going to help to quell a bit of that worry, that anxiety, that you know what, this change is not going to make anything better. It's not going to work. Provide that why and that rationale. The other insight that I do want to talk about, and it showed up a couple times in the US and Western Europe and was slightly mirrored in Asia, and that is being comfortable with the way things are or having to learn new skills or behaviors. I think that as leaders, we can help our workforce and our teams become more prepared for change the more that we can integrate learning in the organization through learning and development, through training programs. The more that you can stretch the workforce outside of their comfort zone, short of going through huge transformations or big change journeys, you're going to help them build that muscle memory of being in that zone of discomfort so that when change hits, they'll remember, oh, I've been through a lot of training classes, learned a lot of new stuff, had to be outside of my zone of comfort. This is inviting me right back into it. I learned something new during that training, so I'm going to choose to trust that I'm going to learn something new going through that change. When you can nurture that environment of discomfort, of learning, of growth, then when change hits, the organization is going to be more prepared to move forward, having less worry, having less fear about being outside of their zone of comfort or having to learn a new skill or a new behavior that they might not be fully competent at when they first start. So if you got value from that data and you're intrigued and want to know more, I've got something else for you for free. I want to gift you our entire global research white paper. It has not only this data, but also other findings as you think about emotion and change in the workplace, effective strategies to inspire employees out of resistance and into resilience, as well as what drives burnout and effective strategies to help mitigate that. We have a lot of findings in this research, things that your employees are probably thinking and feeling that they're not telling you. And I want to gift that to you today. All you got to do is click on the link below. I want to make sure you have the research, the data, and the insights to fuel your growth through your greatest change challenges. I'm Cassandra Worthy, and until we meet again, keep growing and keep rocking.